started in executive session and continued right in, so if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. I'd say move everybody up to the front, we'll have an empty house after that. We're gonna stay just for fun, so we have some company here tonight,
You can huddle up for warmth.
right? Well, let's get right into it, I guess. Let's go with, the public comment period. Well,
Toby.
Oh,
he's gonna be
Good.
Yeah.
6:45, so, well, actually, we can't, 6:45, there's no public comment, so we have to wait now. We still have 15 minutes,
You
right?
can do the action list, you can do things that don't matter.
Even though the time is published on here?
These are all estimates. Once we have no idea
Public
when we're
hearings
gonna
you
do
have
what.
to, but like-
All right, I just want to make sure we're not violating anything and it's all set. So, you want to go, we can go to the action list then?
Or Lorraine's here?
All right, let's, Lorraine, you want to go home early?
I would love to.
All right, come on. All right, so
Don't have
let's,
to ask her twice.
all right, so let's go with, is,
Right here where the
come on
mic is.
down. You want to, we know we make the motion first or after? I know this is the interview, but we should motion
Usually
first.
first.
First,
All
yeah.
right.
Do I have that?
Yes, that's you. It's all 1G.
I nominate Lorraine Wetzel as a member of the Economic Development Team for a term to expire on June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? No, hearing's open. Hi,
Hi.
there you go. You stepped right in. Frying pan to the fire.
No interview.
So we'll do this. You know how this works. This is just the interview.
Yep.
The next time will be appointment, as long as everybody concurs, and knowing who you are, I'm sure that won't be a problem. So, but we'll go through with that. But why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your experience, and what you see your vision as?
Okay. Well, I've lived in Rockport for 30 years, and I just really love Rockport. I'm very involved with the town. I've had 4 children go through the school system. So my youngest is actually graduating this year. They've all done well. So I have and I'm also serving on the Ed Foundation as their vice president this year. So I have a thorough understanding of that aspect. I served on the finance committee for the town of Rockport for 9 years. I served as their chair. So I feel like I have an in-depth knowledge of the finances as well. I did attend a meeting, an economic development committee meeting last week. I've attended several throughout the years. I concur with Lana. I'm really excited to be part of the committee. Some of the activities that she wants to start putting on the forefront, I'm very interested in becoming a part of as well.
For instance, like what? Because I know the EDC has kind of has a broad spectrum, and unfortunately for me, I mean, fortunately for me, I'm liaison, but unfortunately, those meetings fall on Tuesday nights, and most of them coincide with Selectmen's meetings, so it's a bit unfortunate. The last one didn't. I couldn't make it, unfortunately. But what do you see? Like, is there something that you see that really interests you?
Yes, one of the topics that you brought up was getting a grocery store at the forefront, which has always been an issue with
Hot
me.
topic.
So I think that's something that I'd like to get involved with. Promoting the businesses, advertising is something that I know that she's always been an advocate of, and I agree with. They talked about other issues in terms of, parking and,
Parking's a problem here?
no, not too much.
Right.
So I'm not saying I'll have the answer, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested in being part of that process. I really believe there's a lot of good in Rockport, and, being part of the Economic Development Committee, I believe, is preserving the good, not all change, but, certainly being involved with any positive change.
Do you think that we have seen any type of economic boom here in Rockport with the restaurants that are year-round now that we've allowed restaurants to have a bar within the restaurant. And
Absolutely.
you think you've,
Yes,
okay, good.
yes. I think we're in, a step in the right direction. I think it will, other restaurants will be interested now.
Right.
And they've backed away because of that.
Yeah.
The alcohol piece, I mean, I'm not somebody that is interested in the drinking parts per se, but I'm a business person, and I know that the only way that they can really make money and advocate for people to come back is if they can serve alcohol.
Right, especially
it's
in
really
the
necessary.
shoulder seasons.
Yes,
You know.
so I think that other restaurants will be interested in coming here. I think grocery stores, I mean, there was an issue with Crosby's because they sell wine. And I don't know all the details of that, but I think that was a factor in them backing away. So I think we'll be able to attract more high-end type of entities.
These
with
meetings
that piece
begin,
in
to-
it.
yeah, I think we do have a license for beer and wine, but it has to be a supermarket. So you couldn't have it at Cumberland Farms, but
Right.
if a Crosby's did come into town, they would be eligible to apply for that license. There's one license, and I think that would be huge. But we've got to find a suitable place for them to open up.
No, I think that's perfect.
And I've talked to Jim Crosby probably 2 or 3 times over the years, and he said the demographics, the setup of Rockport fits perfectly for Crosby's.
Yeah.
It's just we got to find a place, you know.
No, I agree. So, and I think it's going to attract a lot of the higher end type of entities like Crosby's. So we're definitely in the right direction with that.
With a grocery store.
The grocery store and the liquor license, I think it's definitely been a positive move for the town.
Yeah, good.
So one of my concerns, Lorene, is all the empty storefronts on Main Street. And I'd love to hear if you have any perspective on what we can do to try to support merchants and gallery owners and just turn the tide with what's going on. I hope it's not, momentum, but it kind of looks like it.
Yeah, I think that we're headed in the right direction. There was a period of time where we weren't, and we've turned that around. I do think with all the issues that we just discussed, that people will be attracted to Rockport. The more people, especially with the Shaylin Lou and the restaurants in conjunction with the Shaylin Lou, it will attract the businesses as well. And as part of the Economic Development Committee, if we can advertise and create more visibility for them, and again, the parking issues. Yes.
Okay.
I
I just want to say thank
Yeah.
you for volunteering.
Oh,
I think
thank
it's
you.
great that you're
Yeah.
stepping up.
Thank you.
I mean, so many things, and I know that the EDC has kind of a very wide berth of things that they consider, from housing to schools to businesses, and it's with parking, and I mean it's so all interconnected, where one really has an effect on the other, especially in such a small town like we have. So,
Right.
to have somebody of your caliber on that board, I think makes a big deal. Is a big deal. And I know your involvement with Rotary and other things too is really positions you well for that. So I'll echo Denise and say thank you for stepping up. It's huge.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate it.
No problem. All right, any other questions,
No?
Denise? Okay, so you know how it goes from here. So
Yes.
we'll deliberate for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then get back to you and let you know.
Thank you
But
very much for your
thank you.
time.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. You're late.
Yeah, you're late. Where have you been? Do you have a note?
Don't worry, I'll let you in, Toby.
We saved it
No
for you,
problem.
Toby.
I'll let you in.
Trying to be nice, Toby.
See?
It is the season.
So I'm being nice, and now you be nice. I'm not able to. All right, well, we'll give it a shot anyway. That's okay. Okay, so we'll jump back on track here, because I think we're okay now. And we'll go back up to public comment, if that's okay with everybody. Toby, go ahead. Can I stop you just for 1 second, if you don't mind? Because I know it's coming up, and I want to give it to you before you ask for it. He has it? Okay, good. The letter to Addison Gilbert? Okay, good.
Right.
And I'll talk about that in a minute, but go ahead, Toby.
Right. Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. I'd like to comment when you come to the harbor leases. Would that be possible?
Sure.
I attended the meeting of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee last Wednesday morning. they meet during the day because town officials who are members of the committee, don't have to give up their evenings. It's not convenient for members of the general public, but that's the way it is. And that was a particularly long and trying meeting. I didn't sit all the way through it. There was a lot of discussion at that meeting about the IS&T, Information Systems and Technology budget, which was cut from $152,000 that they asked for to $120,000. And two members of the committee, those representing the Finance Committee, said that they felt that the 120 was not justified. I'm not capable of, advising on that, but it doesn't inspire confidence. The 120 that is left includes $32,000 for tablets. Rob Lebo can correct me that the kids, per order of the glorious Commonwealth, have to take the standardized tests, without which the schools can't be accredited, without which the kids can't graduate. And this is yet another unfunded mandate from the state, and as such, it's insult to injury. It's an outrage. It may be only $32,000 if you think of $32,000 as only, but that's on top of all of the special ed, expenses for the schools, an enormous unfunded mandate. And I feel very strongly that your board and or the school committee owe the town meeting, that is us, the voters, who are going to pay for this, a resolution to the Commonwealth roundly condemning this and calling on the state to pay for all of it. Will you do that?
I can, I'll speak to it. No, as far as I'm concerned, no. Because, the things that come about by way of the state that are mandated for the kids in the community, it's not an assault on our communities. It's something that is for the good of our kids. And I understand that it's very burdensome for a lot of towns. But for us to go back and slap the hand of the state is counter to any efforts that we might want to see in the future as well. I don't think it's necessary, Toby. I really don't. I mean, if my colleagues feel differently, please speak up. But I don't see a need for that. So.
Now, someone who administers the MCAS and have for the last 20-something years, I get why they're mandating this. DOE is mandating it, and I fully support it. And education is expensive.
It is not a question of whether you want the kids educated and whether or not they should take the tests. They took the tests before with paper and pencil, and apparently that was sufficient. Mr. Lebo can tell you if it wasn't. But now we have to have this gadgetry, everyone being in love with gadgetry, everyone but me. I couldn't disagree with you more strongly about the state ordering it and it therefore being acceptable. I'll take it up with the school committee. Thank you.
I think that's a better forum for it, Toby. And I understand that I'm very cognizant of your disdain for gadgetry and technology, and that's fine. I think it's admirable in a lot of ways. But unfortunately, in today's society, it's very necessary. So I have no problem with what's going on. I wish there was some funding that went along with that mandate, but.
I will add, Mr. Chairman, when I call back Toby and there's no answer machine, and I call back again and there's no answer machine, I know.
And let me just add, as in the CIPC process and in the course of that discussion, yes, that was one component of the budget request. I do want to elaborate on your point, though, Toby, about sort of not understanding the IS&T request in sufficient detail and the concerns that were raised by the members of the Finance Committee. When we get to the CIPC presentation, one of the things that I'll share is that we are going to, first of all, usually the IS&T department comes and looks for, I think it's 5 years of funding, and we provided for 1 year of funding. And part of the reason for that is that we want to look at the process and maybe think of ways to apply more rigor to the process so that we can all feel more comfortable about the budget request that comes out of not just that department, but every department.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Good. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else with public comment? We went back to it. Anybody else? Okay, moving on. 7:05, we're going to go.
Look at that. 7:05.
Look, hold on. 3 seconds, 2, 1. We're in. We're legal now.
My iPad says 7:06, so we're
Oh.
late, actually.
All right.
Mine
Is
does
there,
too, actually.
is there a motion?
for cable TV?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I believe I have that. I move that the Board of Selectmen open a public hearing on cable television's license under Massachusetts General Law 166A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing's open. And from cable television, we have Dave, say it
No.
for me.
Bill Hewig?
So one more time?
Bill Hewig, William
Bill
Hewig
Hewig,
from
I'm sorry.
KP Law.
Oh, Bill Hewitt. I'm sorry.
Your town
I'm
council.
looking at this. I apologize. Bill Hewitt. Okay. Take it away.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Town Administrator, Mr. Vieira, Assistant Town Administrator, Linda, members of the public. Every time a municipality renews a cable television license, they must have, by state law, one public hearing. Purpose of the public hearing is to get public input and determine whether the license should be renewed, and also determine what the town's future community cable-related needs are, and if there are any problems with Comcast's compliance with its current license. The process has been we have been undergoing. Articulation fails me at the moment, I guess.
It's late.
Maybe it's live TV, I don't know.
That's it.
We have been undertaking the process of the renewal negotiations for about a year and a half. And we were joined by representatives of the other three Cape Ann regional cable TV communities, that is Gloucester, Manchester, and Essex, and by the executive director of CATV, Eric Archer. Along with representatives of the municipalities, and Mitch was a representative from Rockport, we negotiated a renewal license that was common with the other three towns in its terms. And the renewal license we negotiated, and which is being proposed, would increase the amount of money paid to Cape Ann Regional TV from the current amount of 2% of the gross annual revenues for each contributing community, each for one city and three towns, up to 3.6% of the gross annual revenues. The current license gave 1.25% of gross annual revenues to each community for their own technical funds, their own cable-related needs, anything apart from the Regional Access Corporation that's cable-related. 10 years ago, I believe, Rockport used that to buy out the INET, and I assume has been using the technical fund contributions to rebuild that.
This system you're using right now.
It's money well spent then. The other provisions in the license will be that it's proposed a 10-year renewal license to begin on December the 1st,
Bless you.
2017, and to conclude November the 30th, 2027. Wow, 2027. That seems like a long time away. The contributing percentages for the four communities are interesting. Gloucester, well, let me go back to the regional cable access provider, Cape Ann TV. The new licenses for the four communities, Gloucester has not yet been signed. Manchester has not yet been signed, but shortly will be. Essex was signed in September. When they're all four signed and all four renewal licenses are in place and the mechanics for paying the money begin, the new the Access Corporation will get a total of $890,000 over a 10-year period for its expansion and its programming of events in all four Cape Ann communities. The total annual contribution, that's $890,000 in capital contributions from the four communities. The total annual contribution for its operating expenses, that is the 3.6% each community pays, will total $552,000 per year. It's a well-funded and, from my observations and experience, a really excellent regional cable access provider. Got a beautiful studio that's well-staffed. They make their own programming. They even make animated, products. So I was very, very impressed. We we did our negotiations at their offices, and it was a beautiful facility. I've seen a lot of them around the Commonwealth. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've negotiated probably 80 or 90 licenses. I've seen quite a few. Plymouth has got a really good regional center. This one is probably the best one I've ever seen. It is really a state-of-the-art facility, and it's something you can be very proud of. And I'm sure the programming it produces is very, very well received in the community. So the license that's being proposed then would increase the percentage of gross annual revenues paid on behalf of the town and to the town from a total of 3% to 3.25% in the current license to a total of 4.85% in the current in the proposed new license. In other words, it would go up 1.6 percentage of gross annual revenues. And again, part of that goes to the town, 2%, and part of it goes to the regional access provider. That's the money part of it. The license has liquidated damages, which I always insist on being included in a license, and the reason for that is that I always say the only way to get the donkey's attention is to hit it in the head with a 2x4, and liquidated damages are the 2x4 you need to do it. If the cable company is out of compliance with its license, there is no other mechanism that the selectmen as the issuing authority have to make them get back into compliance other than by forcing them to pay money. That's the only language they understand. So I've always insisted on liquidated damages and a license, and this one will have it. I don't think you'll have problems with Comcast complying with its license, quite frankly. Those kinds of things happened 20 years ago when cable companies were new and the technology was new. With fiber optic now, the signal quality is generally very good, and if there are areas in town where the signal quality is poor, fiber optics is easy to identify and pinpoint the area and easy to fix. So we just don't have the kinds of signal quality problems we used to have. And with respect to customer service, the old stories of somebody waiting on the telephone for 115 minutes and then talking to somebody in Greenland, that doesn't happen very much anymore. You do get an operator, you do get an attendant fairly quickly. But if you don't, and members of the public are listening, you can always call into Comcast and complain about it. And if the selectmen get enough complaints of improper customer service, you can ask Comcast to produce for you their computer-generated records of telephone response time. They keep records on that. They're obligated by the FCC regulations to answer the telephone within 30 seconds, 90% of the time in ordinary circumstances. So it's fairly easy to monitor that. And again, if you have any questions or problems about that, I can always, just shoot me an email or give me a phone call or send it to Darren. He'll pass it on to me. I can help you with that. But license
Is there any
compliance-
recourse that, I'm sorry, let's assume that does go that route. I'm just curious what's entailed in this, because you've forgotten more about this than I'm sure I know. But is there any recourse that the board has at that point if we receive a voluminous amount of complaints from the general public?
Yes.
What do we have? I know we have donkeys and 2x4s all over the place, but what do we have here that we can go on?
The way that the liquidated damages work is as follows. There is a requirement for notice and opportunity to cure. That means if you've got a complaint against Comcast, you have to give them written notice, 30 days written notice, and they have to respond and tell you either A, yes, we're going to do it, or yes, we can do it, or no, we disagree, we don't think it's a violation. Let's take an example. Say you've got a whole bunch of folks in town say that they've been put on hold on customer service calls for long periods of time, and they never got somebody who could help them. The way you trigger the liquidated damages is to send a letter to Comcast, tell them you think they're in violation of the particular section of the license that would involve, and tell them they have 30 days to cure it, and you're going to conduct a hearing to make sure they do. If Comcast is able to prove to you that they can cure that in 30 days, they don't get liquidated damages. If they can't prove to you that they cure it, then you make a finding that they're in violation of the license, you give them another 30 days, and then you start to assess penalties. And in the case of, I'm not sure what they are for customer service violations, probably $50 or $100 a day. I mean, that adds up fast. So that's how it works. That's how the mechanism works.
Okay.
And they keep getting fined until they fix it. And So you don't often see this invoked, but in cases in the past where I have, we had one Comcast instance where they were in violation of exactly that, telephone response time. It accrued liquidated damages of $30,000 or $40,000 before they fixed it. I mean, that's how you get their attention.
Right.
So that's the mechanics of how liquidated damages work. That's your recourse.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate that. Selectperson Donovan?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you about, have you had any conversations with the Comcast representatives or with any other municipalities where you've negotiated contracts about net neutrality and the implications for service?
That's an easy one. No.
Okay.
Net neutrality really relates, as I understand it, to the internet. And
Well, they're our internet provider, unfortunately, in town, and our only one.
Yeah.
And so my concern is that it seems to me that if we were to bring any leverage whatsoever on Comcast, to get them to not play games with, changing the speed of access for residents, that it would be in the contract, a 10-year contract that we're signing with them. And I know it's very late in the game, but I just wonder if, municipalities in Massachusetts, if we were together to withhold a contract and require that we include a provision where they're not allowed to change access speeds, that maybe we'd have a chance of, kind of having some defense in the face of what's just happened.
that would be a really great thing if it were only legal.
Well, you're
Our
the lawyer.
Our constraint is that it's a
Yeah.
cable television license, and the
I see.
selectmen can't withhold the signing of a cable television license for anything other than cable television. So selectmen don't regulate or control broadband, internet, or telephony, even though that's all delivered through
Yeah.
the same fiber optic wire.
Huh.
And it's delivered, it's produced and sold by the same cable operator. Our business tonight is cable TV only, and so, and the license itself, the powers of the selectmen are limited to negotiating a cable license.
Okay.
Just on that, and I'll, real quick, and I don't want to go too far off subject, pardon me, but my meager understanding of net neutrality is that, in my opinion, is that it's going to create a little more competition in the marketplace.
I
So
hope so.
I think there's going to be a benefit rather than a detriment on this. Yeah, everybody has a different understanding.
Well,
That's it.
no, I certainly hope that's the outcome. I think the concern that a lot of people have is that, we have a single provider in town, it's Comcast, and they are now going to have the option of controlling our access speeds, and so,
Well, like you
people
s-
are worried that they're gonna kind of decide who gets faster access and maybe charge for it.
Well, like I said,
So.
we're here for cable TV.
No,
and
I
we'll
understand
stay
now.
on
I
it.
didn't
Right.
understand, even
So
though
that's good.
they're our only provider.
All right. Anything else that you want to add to it?
That concludes my remarks. Mitch and I were together throughout the negotiations. They were protracted, they were long, and
fun,
Comcast
right?
complicated the matter by having two different negotiators, one for Rockport and another one for the other three communities. So
Oh, dear.
somehow we persevered. I think we negotiated a very, very good set of licenses for the communities, and we have met our negotiating goals as articulated by the individual municipal representatives of the towns, and I therefore recommend this cable renewal license for the selectmen's signature tonight.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for your hard work, and thank you, Mitch.
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Do you want a motion?
I
Mr.
think
Chair,
Mitch has something
before you
to
do
add.
that, Mr. Chair, yes, we do need to open up for the public comment. If you could,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, if you would read the public hearing advertisement that's
Oh,
in
I'm
the packet,
sorry.
just for the
Yeah,
record.
I'm sorry.
And then, Mr. Chair, if there are comments from the audience relating to the matters that you specify in this ad.
Yes, I'm sorry. My Sarah's going to be sad with me forgetting this. So this was in the Gloucester Times on 11:30 and 12:07, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Notice of cable TV public hearing. Please take notice that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Rockport, Massachusetts, and issuing authority for a cable television license under Mass General Law, Chapter 166A, will hold a public hearing on December 19th, 2017, at 7:05 p.m. The public hearing will be held at Town Hall, 34 Broadway in Conference Room A. The purpose of the public hearing will be to determine whether to issue a cable television license to Comcast. All applications, reports, statements, and license drafts to be considered at the hearing that constitute public records under state law are available for public inspection during regular business hours and for reproduction at a reasonable fee. Members of the public are invited to attend and be heard on the topic. A, whether the current cable operator is in full compliance with its currently existing cable license, and B, what are the town's future community cable-related needs? So that was posted again on 11:30 and 12:07 in the Gloucester Daily Times. Am I good now? Perfect, okay. Now we will open up to public, unless anybody else on the board has anything else?
Nope, I
Nope,
thought that was
okay.
very well presented.
Yep, very good. Any comments from the public? Sure. Just come on up to the microphone if you don't mind and state your name. You can go right in front, that's okay.
Like the podium.
Hi, Diane Bella, 17 King Street. I'm interested in knowing why is this for 10 years? It seems a really long time in an industry that moves very, very fast. They literally have a monopoly here. And to tie us up for 10 years, I'm not sure. I've not read the license. So I would like to see the license. It would be interesting to see the license. It's hard to comment on something I haven't seen. But 10 years is a long time in an enormously fast-moving
I agree.
area.
In technology.
Good question.
I'd be happy to address that.
Please.
That's the question that people always ask. You can issue a license under state law for anywhere between 3 and 10 years. I always recommend the maximum, 10 years. The reason I do that is, particularly whereas here you've got a nonprofit access corporation that needs a guaranteed and required and reliable stream of income in order to hire people and to take loans and conduct its business over a long period of time. The 10-year license provides a guaranteed income stream, at least in the form of a percentage of gross annual revenues. That'll go up and down as subscribership changes and as rates go up, or maybe if rates ever come down. But generally, it's a great benefit to an access corporation or any nonprofit, being able to look 10 years into the future and say, okay, we can plan. We have 10 years worth of income stream here we can use. Now, the issue of the fast-changing industry, the changes in technology. The FCC rules say that you can't make a license granting decision based on any technology requirements. So we wouldn't be able to require technology X, Y, or Z. We can't require HD signals for PEG channels, for example, access channels. We're not permitted to do it. The theory is that technology changes are supposed to be market-driven. When I first heard that, I thought, yeah, right. That was about 25 years ago. My observations since that time have been that I think that's correct, because I've seen the technology changes, such as going from 550 megahertz to 750 megahertz, and then going to 860 megahertz, and then going to fiber optic. I've seen all those changes come in communities and municipalities all over Massachusetts, and they come in the middle of a license term. They're not brought in by the fact that the license term is going to be up in a year or 2 years or 3 years. They're brought in because the cable companies want to provide a better product so they can make more sales, bottom line. So in recent years, I've been convinced that technology changes are going to happen. They're going to happen because the cable company is competing now, particularly even where there's only one provider in town. They're competing with Hulu, and they're competing with satellite and dish. There is competition out there, and that competition is taking subscribers away from Comcast. I know that because my son just brought home Hulu and set it up on our television set. I don't know how to do it, but he figured it out. So competition is real, and it's out there, and that is what's going to drive technological improvements in the cable industry, not the term of the license.
I just have a question in response to that, and that's exactly the reason why people are concerned about net neutrality, is because they are having competitors, so they're gonna slow the lines down when you're not accessing Comcast. But in any case, if, with signing this license for 10 years to, Donna, is that your name? Diane's Point, sorry. Everybody calls me Diane, and I should get your name right. To Diane's point, does that prohibit us from signing, say, Verizon were to come up finally and, decide that they're also going to make them offer Verizon in the area? Could we sign a license with Verizon as well, to Don's point that we're going to have increased competition? Is that an option?
Absolutely. These are non-exclusive licenses. And one of the sort of myths about the licensing is that, oh, why don't we just kick Comcast out and let's bring Verizon in? That's just not the way things happen. The license, once granted, has what the law calls a presumptive right of renewal, which is a fancy way of saying you're probably going to get it renewed because the law is stacked against you if you try to say no. So the licenses that are granted to the initial cable operators have a presumptive right of renewal, but they are all non-exclusive. There are many communities in Massachusetts that have 2. Some are fortunate enough to have 3. Some have RCN, Verizon, and Comcast, or some, like Braintree, have their own little local their own little cable company that the light department set up, or something like that. So there's a couple of communities where they have their own local cable provider, and they very much loved, I would say. So there's no reason in the world why, if Verizon comes to town and wants to get a license from you, there's no reason in the world, there's no legal reason that would prevent you from doing that. And there's every competitive reason why you would want to do that. The decision is Verizon's, it's not ours.
And could they use the same fiber optic cables, or would they have to install their own?
They have to use their own.
Okay. Just want to understand how it works, yeah.
And they probably already got them strung in town because they sell, I'm sure Verizon sells,
Not
you
fiber
don't have any,
optic.
you don't have any,
Not fiber
any
optic.
telephone
Not
or,
fiber
No,
or
we have an internal loop in town for communication systems, but we don't
Verizon's
have-
copper line in town.
Yeah,
Still.
all right.
Yep.
yeah, so we don't. But that's good to know, good question. I think that's a, nice thing to know we have if it comes to that. From the way I understand it, because I actually called them a while ago, I believe that the fiber line stops in Beverly, or somewhere thereabouts, might be Peabody, I'm not exactly sure, but I did call them, because I really wanted to see fiber come up here. I thought that would have been a great get for us, but that's what it was.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, to add
Please.
to that, Gloucester did ask as well. Gloucester did reach out prior to the start of the process directly to Verizon to seek them out to see if they would be interested, and their government affairs director did, thank you, we appreciate it, but we're not interested. We're going to focus on the communities that we have.
Right.
And I was going to say that I did that when I got here as well, and I know they don't want to come here.
We've all taken a bite at the apple here.
And the other thing, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I've been involved with cable contracts for 20 years, seen them in many towns. I've never seen one that wasn't a 10-year contract. Never. I don't know why, but they all go for 10 years. It's such a pain, I guess, to do it.
No, yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of legal fees involved and everything else that goes along with it. And I think I get the stability side of it for the providers locally, and that makes all the sense in the world. But I think it's also nice to know we have options.
You do have options, that's true.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
as long as we have some options and,
Yeah.
should that, because, and I get what you're saying, that you can't do it based upon what future technology will be. But technology in this arena changes so fast that, I had a satellite for a while, and then I went back to Comcast, and, you never know which way it's gonna go. But anyway, anybody else from the audience like to comment? Public comment? No? We good?
Want a motion?
Yes, please, sir.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign a cable television renewal license with Comcast of Connecticut, Georgia, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, North Carolina, Virginia, Vermont, LLC, for the term of December 1st, 2017, to run through November 30th, 2027, as reviewed by Town Council.
And before we act on that motion, I just want to close the public hearing.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Very good.
I move that the Board of Selectmen close the public hearing.
Motion's been made
Second?
and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. Do we need to reread that, or are we good? Mitch?
Sorry?
Do we need to reread, or are we good? We can go with the same with the motion? I just want to make sure we're compliant.
No.
No.
We don't, okay, good.
It wasn't seconded before?
No.
Yeah,
No.
you can do that now.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure we're compliant, that's all.
Second.
Second, there you go. Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Congratulations. I hope your subscribers enjoy 10 years of clear and entertaining cable television production,
Thank you
Fantastic.
for
both
your hard
locally and
work.
from your
That's great. That's great. Thank you for your hard work on this. We appreciate it. It
You're
really
welcome.
is
All right.
appreciated.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy holidays to all of
Yeah,
you.
likewise.
Merry Christmas to you. Thank you. That's great. Okay. Moving right along. We're going to go with the Comcast Underground Conduit hearing. Is there a motion?
Yes, I move that the board open a public hearing on the petition of Comcast to install a 3-inch PVC conduit to a proposed vault in the sidewalk at 27 Dock Square and continuing from the proposed vault to a 1-inch PVC conduit onto 27 Dock Square.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? This is fairly simple. There's not really a whole lot going on with this. This is just kind of a standard.
Could you read the ad as well for
Oh, this has another ad. Oh, we have lots of ads here. I'm sorry. 53. Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah, it's on, it'll be on 53. One sec. Okay. Town of Rockport, this is in the Gloucester Daily Times on 12/12/17. Town of Rockport Board of Selectmen public hearing, Tuesday, December 19th, 2017, Town Office Building, Conference Room A. Petition of Comcast, 7:20 PM, Dock Square, starting at existing Comcast vault location located between 23 and 25 Dock Square, excavating and placing one 3-inch PVC conduit to a proposed 24-inch by 36-inch vault located at 27 Dock Square, and continuing from the proposed vault with a 1-inch PVC conduit to private property. Sarah J. Wilkinson, chairperson. Again, Gloucester Times, 12/12/17. Please. Now, this is Dave. There we go. I
Good
knew it.
evening. Dave
Thank-
Walling, Comcast.
Thank you, Dave.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this, or I could read the petition again.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about the project, what's going on with it? I think that'd be a good overview for everybody, so we all know what's going on here.
So basically, we need to extend this line to provide service to number 27. It's going to entail excavation work in both the sidewalk and the street. I anticipate the work to take maybe this time, I don't know if the permit will be issued this time of year or not, but I think the delay in all this was the amount of tourism throughout the summer and being able to find a time to get in here to get this approved and then hopefully move forward with the project. So depending upon the excavating in the area, I anticipate this to take no more than a couple of days, worst case scenario, maybe a week, weather permitting.
Do you see, is there any pavement involved in this after the fact?
Yeah, we'll be excavating in the sidewalk, which is concrete, and then the street would be asphalt.
Yeah, so, but aren't the plants aren't shut down? I thought they shut down at a certain time of year.
Typically December 17th, but some plants do stay open.
Okay,
So I guess it all would hinge upon if the permit was issued and if we can still get the asphalt, if we could do it this year, or if it would have to be pushed off to the spring.
okay.
So may I?
Please.
Mr. Chair, my only request is that we notify abutters.
We have to do that.
Oh, do we have to do that? Is it
Yeah,
already?
they've been notified.
But when the actual construction is going to take place? Yeah, so that they know, if they're gonna lose a parking space for a day or two, or if we're interrupting with commerce at a store or whatever, that we just give them some advance notice.
I think this is a great opportunity to use our system again and send that out through our email system, because that's kind of the sweet spot down there. Maybe just to let people know.
If we get notified when they do it.
I understand,
Yeah,
but
so
could
is that
you-
something? Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Would you be able to notify us in advance? Because we have kind of an email chain that we use for downtown, especially that area.
Okay.
To notify people, fishermen downtown, if the wharf is closed, things like that. And a lot of the businesses down there are also on that, so it would be a great thing to let them know.
Okay, so you want me to just reach back out to the town, let you know when we schedule the work, and that'll all hinge on if the permit is issued, and obviously if this is granted tonight to move forward.
Of course, just coordinate that through the office, and they'll take care of it, and then Debbie, who's the administrative assistant there, will take care of everything and get the notice out.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Yep, no problem.
That's good. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, are we, hearing? So we're in a public hearing. So is there are there any comments from the public on this? Let's go take it out to the public here. Nobody has any comments?
Want me to
Okay.
close it?
Sure, let's go right ahead.
That's yours.
That's all right.
All right,
Paul.
I'll do it then. I move that the Board of Selectmen close the public hearing.
Is there a
Second.
Motion made in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, and I'll take the next one, since you stole mine.
Yes, please.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve National Grid's petition to install one
Thank you.
3-inch PVC conduit to a proposed vault in the sidewalk at 27 Dock Square, and continuing from the proposed vault with 1-inch PVC conduit onto 27 Dock Square, as shown on the Comcast construction plan dated October 7th, 2017.
Heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Everybody good with this?
Yep.
Good. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Great, thank you. So that's Comcast. All right, let's jump right into it. This is your time to
CIPC.
shine.
All right.
All right, so we'll go to the Selectmen briefing and the CIPC capital budget recommendations.
Right. So, I don't know how this has been done in the past, but I'll just give everyone an overview of the deliberations that we went through, the process, and where we've landed with respect to a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. So I served as the chair of the CIPC this year, which was a great learning opportunity for me at the expense of some of the other members. But the way the process works is that in the fall, Linda Sanders, the town administrator, sends a notice to each of the town department heads, alerting them to the fact that we are going to be convening to review their request for capital expenditures for the coming budget year. They submit their requests. We meet as a committee, and they present their requests to the committee, and we ask questions and try to understand. We ask them to rank their requests in terms of priority and try to understand kind of how the expenditure would fit in, and how we have a series of 4 criteria that we use to ascertain which, how to weight the different requests. So starting with what's mandated by law, what's required to make sure that we're preserving public safety, that sort of thing. And the very last is nice to have, and those usually don't make it very far. So we met with all of the department heads, and then as Toby mentioned at the beginning of the hearing, of the meeting tonight, we met for quite a long time last Wednesday to deliberate. And one of the challenges that we had this year, and I'm not sure if this is true every year, is that we did not have a whole lot of free cash to work with. So do I have the numbers here in front of me? Total free cash that we had was $208,000, $208,000.
Do you have that one handy?
No, I don't.
Okay, here you go.
All I have is the proposal.
Oh, sure. Oops, sorry.
Thank you. So, oh, wow, that's tiny.
Sorry.
That's all right. So we had free cash of $448,193. In the face of budget requests that, I don't know, the total was several $1 million from all the different departments. So it was a real challenge to start with, because we had very little budget remaining for capital expenditures. And this is something the Finance Committee has alluded to in the past, in terms of this is going to be a future challenge for the town, even more so in out years. So we had very little free cash available. And we did, as a committee, decide that there was a fund of $722,105 that had, was the proceeds of real estate transactions. So tax title land that the town had sold in the preceding year. And we decided as a committee that if we were to have any hope at all of meeting the mandated required budget requests from the different departments, that we needed another source of funds. And so we are recommending that we apply $250,000 of that $722,000 to this coming year's capital budget. So we're requesting that the Board of Selectmen consider the recommendation that the CIPC had to leave 400-something thousand in.
This is bigger type.
Oh, thank you. I really can't see it. And I don't want to take my glasses off because then I won't be able to hear. Thank you. It's much better. So that would leave $472,000 in the real estate fund. And there was a prevailing sense on the part of the CIPC that that was the intended purpose of that fund, and that we didn't want to take any more than $250,000 out of it, because we think we're going to need that money for real estate purposes at some point in the future. So that meant that we had $698,000 to apply to capital budget requests. And that was exclusive of borrowing. So the other thing that we're trying to balance is the need not to increase our debt service. We actually have quite a bit of room to borrow. We are in good standing in that regard, but we're trying to minimize our debt service just because of keeping our operating budgets afloat. So as a result, we reviewed all of the requests, and I will go through, is this what I should do, Linda, is just
Yeah,
go through what we've approved or what we are recommending to the Board of Selectmen? It's already been presented to the Finance Committee. I don't think they've weighed in yet, right? Okay.
I'm sure it's gonna be fine with them.
I'm sure they'll be thrilled. So what we're recommending, do I read everything that people requested and what we didn't approve, or
Your choice.
what does everyone want to hear? You want to hear
I would
all
do
of it?
recommended.
Yeah, okay.
That's
So,
the final.
IS&IT, as Toby alluded to, they had requested $152,000, which would have been an increase of $32,000 over the existing annual allocated budget. We decided to go with $120,000 to keep it where it is. And this was as a result of some of the discussion that came up with the Finance Committee members who were there, who were doing their due diligence to say, look, we're not confident that we understand where all this money is going and that you need all of it. And so where we landed was to keep the budget flat, to recommend keeping the budget flat for them this year. And as I was saying earlier, to start early next year, to reconvene the CIPC, start early next year, and really think about how can we make this budgeting process more rigorous, both so that the CIPC members are satisfied with that the requests are indeed vetted and are documented to the point where people can say, yes, we understand where the money's going and it makes sense. But also for the department heads to make the exercise something that's going to make their jobs a little bit easier, although albeit more painful in the short run. So we're recommending $120,000 for IS&IT. We have agreed that we need to replace one police cruiser for $50,134, but that is coming not out of the town budget, not out of the free cash.
General, yeah.
Yeah, general cash, but out of the parking fund. The harbor master requested $20,000 for pilings, ladders, and gangways. We've approved $10,000. The school department requested that we replace 4 school buses at a cost of $327,000. We have recommended that we replace 2. They are quite old, and we're concerned about safety. I think they're 10 years old. Is that right, Ron? Yeah, they're 10 years old. And they're stored outside, and they're just, it's time to do something about it. We were hopeful that maybe something could be done in concert with Gloucester. Gloucester there was something in the paper a week or two ago that they were looking to outsource the busing contract. That is not going to be viable for Gloucester or for us. So we have recommended that we borrow $151,000 and replace 2 of the school buses. The sidewalk and patio areas, all of the concrete around both the middle school and the high school and the elementary school are in serious need of repair in many places. The cost to repair all of that concrete is $374,000. We have allocated $50,000 and are hoping that we can, as the superintendent suggested, reduce the amount of concrete so that we're not trying to maintain so much of an area of concrete. Apply the $50,000 to take care of the most dire situations, and to continue to work with the DPW to patch and replace where we have to. We're recommending replacing the smoke detector system for $11,600. Replacing playground equipment for $26,892, and that again is a safety concern with respect to the age of the equipment and the concerns that we have about how safe it is. For the DPW, we are recommending that we allocate $17,000 for a roadway asphalt and gravel compactor, which apparently gets quite a bit of use in patching holes in the roadways around town. We're also recommending $72,000 toward the purchase of a sidewalk tractor plow. The one that we are using now, we are leasing because the sidewalk tractor plow that we have in inventory is no longer functioning. They're leasing it now, and the company that's leasing it to us will give us a credit toward the purchase. So they had originally asked for $85,000, but because we're leasing, we get that credit, will be $72,000. And we're also recommending that we approve for the DPW TS excavator tracks and lower deck replacement for the front end loader at the transfer station, which gets a lot of wear and tear and use, and those tracks are in dire need of replacement. Both the sidewalk tractor plow and the excavator tracks, we are recommending that we borrow to fund those expenditures. Roadway improvements, the DPW had requested $120,000. We've allocated what remained of the budget, which was $94,267,000. That's in addition to, I think it's about $190,000 that we get every year from the state. So this is to supplement what we get from the state. Also from the DPW, we are recommending that we approve the expense of $8,334 to replace the boiler in the Legion Hall, which I understand is quite dangerous. And we need to do that as soon as possible. The library exterior door and hardware, we had, the DPW had requested $50,000 to replace the entryway at the back of the library, which is not accessible for people who are differently abled. And in fact, somebody has already hurt themselves in that area. So we have approved $30,000 for that purpose and are awaiting actually an actual estimate from the DPW for that. We're recommending that we approve $20,000 for the T Wharf restrooms ventilation upgrade. This is an area that gets quite a bit of use from all the visitors to our town, and because the walls are concrete, there's a problem with ventilation and the walls sweating, and it requires a lot of maintenance on the part of the DPW. So if we can get this ventilated properly, then we're hoping that it will not require so much attention. So with respect to buildings, the subtotal is $58,334. $50,000 of that we're going to recommend that we borrow for the T Wharf restrooms upgrade and for the library exterior door and hardware. The $8,334 for the Legion Hall boiler will come out of free cash. Total for the DPW for the expenditures I mentioned earlier, we're borrowing 92,000, 267,000 will come out of free cash. For the schools, the 88,492 will come out of free cash. We'll borrow the 151 for the school buses. The harbor master request will come out of the waterways fund, so that's not coming out of free cash. As I mentioned, the police cruiser will come out of the parking fund, and IS and IT, we will borrow the 120 to cover that request. So I hope that was at least somewhat intelligible. I'm happy to share this with anyone who's interested, but that is the recommendation of the CIPC to the Board of Selectmen.
Perfect, thank you. And this begs, can you just go over that one more time?
No.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's, I know I was on that committee last year
I
with,
was too.
when Paul was chairman, and it's a great committee, and I hope you lived up to what I said, because you really
Oh,
get
yeah.
a good
Yeah,
insight into
absolutely.
what's going on, and
Yeah.
you guys, the whole committee has done a great job. Thank you to everybody that's on that. I just had a couple of things. One thing that stood out to me as I'm reading through this, and this is I just saw this, is the sidewalk and patio repair at the school from $374,000 to $50,000. We're going to be removing material from there, meaning the cement, concrete, what have you. Is it just going to be dirt? And what are we looking at there? I'm just curious if that can be done, and we can save $324,000.
That's for the entire square footage in front of both buildings and the walkways along the Ramsden Way Drive.
So
That all out.
you took it all out, but maybe I heard it wrong.
So I didn't explain that well. So
Go ahead.
this is all we had to allocate toward this. It's not that we're saving all that money. We're just saying this is what we can do this year.
No, I get that, but
Yeah.
it seemed like that it sounds like that the cement was gonna be removed,
Oh,
and
so
then,
we'll do landscaping or
is that what it comes,
just
that's
not
pretty
have
much
so
all it
much,
is?
yeah, concrete.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, good. And on the playground equipment, what equipment are we looking at? Cause in the,
Gonna replace the spider web tower, for lack of a better description.
I know you're talking, my kids are well acquainted with that,
18 feet in the air. And
right?
has, safety report on it was not positive.
Yeah,
With
sure.
regard to the higher levels
Okay,
in terms of fall.
Sure.
Height, and for possible serious injury around the netting. That will be discontinued. It's replaced with an 8-foot, similar climbing type, structure. And it has a small netting between it, so you still have the climbing experience for kids.
sure,
Much more age appropriate, much safer.
sure.
We would take that right down. The swings, which were part of that, that overall report have been, upgraded and replaced. All the chains have been replaced with our own cost. We used our own money for that. And the DPW should be publicly recognized for coming up and giving us an entire day and a half of labor to, do the whole excavating around the swings and putting mulching around those, because that was just bare ground below those long swing sets.
Mhm.
They should be thanked. They saved us, all of us, a lot of money by giving us that expertise.
Absolutely. I've done many an underdogs over there with my kids at those swing sets, so, as they like to call them, so that's fun. Okay, that's great.
Christ, I haven't heard that since the 1970s.
The underdogs, right? I'm dating
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
that's all right. Well, I'm good. Did you have any questions?
No, it
Mr.
just,
Murphy?
thank you, Denise, for serving on the committee. It is an eye-opener. When I look at this, list of some of the major departments, we're not doing a heck of a lot of maintenance
No.
because money's tight. And the schools are just requesting $239,492. DPW is 203, basically, the buildings, 58,000 we're putting in. So this is going to come back and haunt us at some point, but it's concerning.
Yeah,
So, but
I think we all agree
Yeah.
that there's some serious issues with respect to ongoing maintenance and the fact that we have to borrow to cover the budget. I mean, it's allowed and we can handle it, but.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal.
No.
No.
I know, I was talking to Mitchell, the subcommittees that we've established that'll be brought up at the next meeting. Is that correct, Mitch?
I believe that's the chair's plan.
Okay, good. So hopefully that's it. It'd be, especially for something like that, that involves so many aspects and looking at long-term budgeting, it's good that, the full complement of the board is here to do that, so that's a good thing. So we're keeping an eye on things, and you folks are doing a great job. Thank you for the hard work, so that's fantastic. Anything else to add on that?
No, just-
We good?
I
Okay.
think we have some questions.
Oh, okay, sure, please. Just name and address if you know, we all know. Yeah. Thank you.
And
Can
the
you,
mic.
can you go to the podium?
No,
No, the
mic.
podium. We have the microphone, I'm sorry.
Is the Board of Selectmen planning to carry in the operating budget a figure of $120,000 to repay short-term debt?
Are you referring to the request for IS&IT?
Yeah.
Well, from my understanding, which is not complete, Carrie is not going to borrow that money until we need the money.
But is it going to be borrowed as long-term debt?
I don't have the answer to that question. Do you know, Linda?
Because if it's not, then the operating budget needs
Understood. Yeah.
$120,000
Yeah.
to carry it. I mean, it can go over the year and be a capital project, but it needs to be repaid during 2019.
So, am I to understand, June, that that is the reason why we, in the past, approved a 5-year budget?
Right. We
Okay.
had 2 5-year plans. We did not want to go into long-term borrowing for computers because they're obsolete in 3
Right.
years in many cases.
Right.
But we authorized 5 years of a program all at once. And then we repaid as short-term debt 1/5 of it or whatever else had been borrowed each year. So as we, the first year we paid off some of it, the second year we paid off all of the first year and some of the second year.
Sure.
So it never rolled over into long-term debt. So you need a plan. It needs to be in the operating budget, the plan to repay this.
Okay, that's helpful, and thank you for sharing that. I think one of the things that we did not understand during the process was the reason why we had done a 5-year plan in the past. But what I will say is that, and you didn't hear this at the beginning of the meeting when Toby was asking about this specific request, is that, and I think I did mention this just now in my ramble, that the CIPC will be reconvening. We only approved 1 year because we wanted to get our bearings and didn't feel that there was adequate documentation or understanding of the full scope of the need. And so that's why we capped the budget recommendation at 120 as opposed to the 152 that was requested, and why we only approved 1 year. So your point is a good one, and we have to come up with a plan, but that's the rationale behind the decision.
Okay, 2 other questions. You've got 3 small borrowing items, 2 for $20,000 and 1 for $30,000. Did you look at transfers and other funding sources for those?
No, and if those are available, then absolutely. So
Because usually we don't borrow for things unless they're well over $50,000.
understood. And Carrie was part of the committee, and basically we didn't have that information available as to what's available to transfer. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda.
No, I just wanted to say that we did discuss that, and the accountant usually takes that action item, and she missed the last 2 meetings. And I mentioned that we still want to look at any balances in capital articles, and then, and all that will do is if we find any, it will be better.
Right, I mean, if we have the money, we won't borrow it.
Okay. And then the third question was, where are you with the Water Enterprise Fund, since they
So-
didn't have any free cash?
Yes, the Water Enterprise Fund does not have any free cash. The Sewer Enterprise Fund is in good standing. I think we ran out of time. We met for 6 hours last Wednesday and ran out of time. And so I don't know what we do, Linda, in that case.
Well, I spoke with Joe and said that he and the commissioners need to look at this because they're the ones that set the rates. And the water being totally out. And we also had a question from DOR when we did the recap on the water enterprise because they wanted justified why we didn't make enough, which the commissioners just take an estimate on the rates. So we're going to have to submit their reasoning behind their projections next year. But by the same token, they're going to have to decide whether they're, first of all, they have to make it whole. They can't buy anything. They wanted to capital purchases. And I said, you guys have to decide where this deficit is going to be covered from. I think their reserve fund is like 50,000 or something. So I think they're going to have to make it up in the rates. And the sewer had a little free cash, but not enough to buy what they wanted. And I said, you and the commissioners need to come back to CIPC and tell us what you're going to do about this. Sewer would be okay if they didn't buy anything. If they didn't want anything, they could have like one or two of the items.
Well,
they
they
wanted.
had free cash of, I think, $75,000.
Right, but
And their
they
request
asked
was
for-
125.
Yeah.
So
So
they can't spend it all.
Yeah, so they're in a little better shape, but
But the Water Enterprise Fund is in the hole, big time. And when I remember the conversation with the DPW commissioners where basically it's an estimate of what they think the water use is going to be, how the weather affects water use. And I think, was this the year, when did we have the drought? Is this relating to the year before last? I don't remember, but weather affects usage, and they just basically guessed wrong when they set the rates. So I think what that means is we're likely going to see higher water rates. I don't see how else they're going to make it up.
Toby?
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. 6 hours is a painfully long meeting, and not to reproach you, but we don't have the figures for either of the enterprise funds at this point. What I recall from the DPW commissioners meeting was that they wanted $200,000 for the I&I for the coming year, and $600,000, not that that's relevant, for the year after. So that will do, I suppose that would be borrowed since, there isn't that sort of money lying around, not possibly, and will do something shocking to the rates. Well, historically, with the Articles 6A and 6B for the Water Enterprise Fund, the capital articles, every single thing they asked for has been funded. That's just the way it works, as opposed to the general budget where you have to pick and choose because you don't have the money. The reason for that is it can all be passed on to the ratepayers, and that's the way an enterprise fund works. Delightful for those who are producing the services, and which are doubtless necessary, but not so delightful for the people who are getting the water and sewer bills.
Well, Toby, if we wanted to, we could approve everything that's been requested and just increase everybody's taxes. I mean, it would work the same way to fund it. So I take your point, though, about I agree that we have a real problem with respect to wastewater treatment and I&I, and I think that's just been an ongoing problem that I don't see the solution, but it's definitely a concern. I don't remember the request being $200,000 for sewer, but I think what this means, though, Linda, is that we have to reconvene the committee to meet with the DPW commissioners. Is that right?
right. And the accountant to bring us
So the
any
accountant
remaining
missed the
balances.
last number of meetings, right?
And one other thing, all of this may be necessary, and complaining does no good. But absolutely, when they go to the town meeting and ask for whatever they ask for in Articles 6A and 6B, there's got to be an explanation of what it's going to do to the water and sewer rates in terms
Absolutely.
of a percentage increase.
Yes, agreed. Yep.
also the time to voice something like that, to attend DPW commissioner meetings.
He does.
And no, not just you, but others in town, because I know, I'm sure you're not the only one in town that's concerned about that. So, I mean, I'd like to see people involved in that, so they voice their opinions on it, and they hear what's going on, so. If you wouldn't mind, just step to the mic. Yeah, that's fine, too. Go ahead, that's fine.
Please forgive me, I was at a community preservation meeting. I've had a couple of questions. Armand DeParo, Conservation Commission, relative to conservation. Private roads. If I could get a description of what I think and what the actual law is, if you will, relative to private roads, ownership, responsibilities, it might help to make some of the decisions and things that we look at a little clearer. Again, there's been a couple of situations where it's come up. People have made claims that I felt were probably incorrect, but I want to make sure I'm on a solid footing.
That's fine. I think we're off topic on this right now.
I know I'm coming in late, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, I missed.
No,
open
that's
meeting.
fine, and I think the office can supply you with,
So if you could just send to conservation something in writing relative to what those are, so we would have a solid understanding. I appreciate that, thank you. Again, forgive me.
No, that's quite all right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, are we good?
Yep.
Everything's all set? Any other questions here?
Nope.
Again, thank you, everybody, for the hard work that went on with this. It's complicated. It's a lot of ins and outs, and especially, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question,
Yeah,
Mr.
sure.
Chairman.
Yeah, please.
So the CIPC makes a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Does the Board of Selectmen have to take action? And if so, at what point?
They will take action after, I think it's, is it the, what meeting is it? The next meeting in January? Debbie was telling us the dates today, and I think it was, January 9th is your annual, budget meeting with the department heads, the finance committee, me,
Okay,
to go over the operating budget
okay.
and capital, and if there's time there, you will have some recommendations, or you usually don't vote at a workshop meeting, but that's your own policy. So if it's efficient to do so, you can choose to waive your policy. So if it's clear about what you want to do with the budget, you can vote there, but usually you don't. Usually at your next meeting, after you have it for a while, and you do both budgets, both operating and capital at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Good? All right. Okay, we have to, do we have to close? No, we don't, this is not, this is
So I'll
public.
move the minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna move the minutes.
I move that the Selectmen approve the minutes of December 5th, 2017.
So the second, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Any changes, additions,
Nope.
subtractions? We're good, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Carries 3-0. Thank you. And we'll go to, let's go right on to the updates and liaison reports. You just gave
I
a
gave,
good one.
gave a long one.
Yeah, that was a good one. Do you have anything you want to add? You
No.
good? Okay.
I have one. I went to the meeting over at Gloucester High School regarding the hospital, Leahy, and it was well attended from people from all the way from Beverly all the way down to Gloucester, Rockport, Essex, and Manchester. I signed up to speak. I didn't speak because people were repeating themselves over and over again. But I'm hoping that with the letter that we sent on December 13th, that this will help to assure that Addison Gilbert stays open. But people got to use Addison Gilbert. You know, they have, you know, I know so many people that from Rockport that drive past Addison Gilbert to go to Beverly for routine care. And first of all, you're gonna be, if you're at the ER, you're gonna be seen a lot quicker in Gloucester than you will in Beverly. But every time I've had, my mother has been there numerous times, other family members, we've always had a good experience with Addison Gilbert. And but just think for a minute, if they ever closed Addison Gilbert, and 16 miles to Beverly Hospital from here. So hopefully this will have a positive outcome, excuse me.
Great, thank you very much. From my standpoint, a couple things. First of all, to address what we talked about earlier with Toby and the letter. I had conversation with Campbell about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Toby came, and it was actually one of my better attended meetings. It was great. We had about a dozen people there, and it was very heartening to hear that. One of the things I learned from that via Toby was that the letter for Addison Gilbert was due by the 18th, or any submissions were due by the 18th to express our concerns and that was done, and that was done very expeditiously by the staff. So we appreciated that. We signed it, we sent it. There's copies available if anybody would like to see it. So that came out very well. So thank you for doing that. And Toby, thank you. I had no idea about the deadline. I really didn't. So that was nice to know.
Thank you. It's an excellent letter.
Good, glad. And I give all the credit to the office. They came up with it. We gave them.
It wasn't the office, it was me.
Well, okay, there you go.
Not
And
that I want
with-
credit, it's just the office doesn't write letters. It has to
Okay,
be
we
the
get
person.
the point. We get the point. Thank you. It's a team effort here, so that's why I go that route rather than so. But thank you for your efforts. There were some others as far as speeding concerns, things like that, around the Granite Street area where the sign is, right by where the new development is supposed to go on Granite Street. And then also the financial outlook for the town about the board kind of taking a backseat approach to this. And pardon me, I took exception with that because that wasn't the case. And it was a bit of misinformation that kind of brought that about. And it was addressed, and I think clarity was given to that. So that was a great thing to happen, and for people to understand how the process worked. And that is kind of all I have for my end of it for right now. Oh, one more thing, I apologize. The last time when I gave my liaison update, I had talked about Paul Senna and an incident that occurred with the planning board. And I found out, and I really want to, when something's wrong, it's wrong, but when something's right, it's right. And Paul came to that meeting, which was the meeting that I unfortunately could not attend. And Paul, I guess, publicly apologized at the meeting for the way he presented himself. And I think that's great. And I think if more people, we all make mistakes. Things happen. So I think it was a great thing for Paul to do, and I commend him for that. And I appreciate him, and I appreciate his service, and I thought that was a great thing. So I just want to state that publicly, because as publicly as I'll go with something that's detrimental, I think the positive should also be have a light on it as well. So that's it for me. I'm good. Anything else? Everybody good? We're good. So now we will move right along. We'll go to the action list. Is anybody waiting here for anything specifically? We could maybe we could jump ahead, and if people don't want to hang around. No? Okay.
All
Then
right,
we'll
I'll
just
take this one.
go right ahead.
I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Fran Aucello as a member of the Conservation Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2020.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second? Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Or actually, I'm sorry. So these are the appointments that the interviews have already been done, and now we're just submitting at this point. So that's it. That's great. Again, the thanks to everybody for stepping up on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Next one.
You're on, Paul.
The appointment of Monica Lawton as a member of the Town Art
Well,
Committee.
we missed Sarah DeMassa.
Oh, I'm sorry, there was
Sarah
two of them.
DeMassa.
Oh,
I
there we
move
go.
that the board appoint Sarah DeMassa as a member of the Conservation Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0.
I move that the board appoint Monica Lawton as a member of the Town Art Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2018.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? We're good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, aye. Motion carries 3-0. acceptance of resignation of Jill Solomon from Rights of Way Committee.
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the resignation of Jill Solomon, from the
Solomon, yep.
Solomon from the Rights of Way Committee effective immediately.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this? No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0, and thank you to Jill for her time on the board. Let's go with the acceptance of resignation of Seth Perry as Reserve Police Officer.
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the resignation of Seth Perry as a Reserve Police Officer effective December 13th, 2017.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0, and thank you to Seth Perry for the time he gave to the town, and we wish him well moving forward. Let's go with the CPA grant agreement with the Congregational Church.
I move that the Selectmen approve and sign a grant agreement outside of a scheduled meeting with the First Congregational Church of Rockport in the amount of $130,000 of CPA funds as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee and authorized by the September 11, 2017 Fall Town Meeting.
Any further motion? Is there a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this? We good on all this? Good, Ruthie? Good. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Okay, and we'll go with the Lester Stevens Triptych Institution for Savings. Is there a motion?
Is the motion the letter?
It says to make motion here, so I would imagine this is, because this is an action that will be undertaken, pardon me, I'm sorry, to be undertaken by the board, and I'll explain it in a second, once we get in.
I don't know what I'm moving.
We're moving to, the letter is to go to the Institution for Savings to hopefully preserve
Yeah, yeah.
the painting behind. And this is just a motion that was put forward to do that. Part of that motion is to assign one person as a liaison for this particular assignment.
No, that's my question, is what actually is the motion? Are we moving to assign you, or are we?
It's not to assign, though I would like to. It's the motion is to assign someone, my name is in there as a placeholder.
Okay.
So unless there's
So-
objection and there's something else, then that's fine. So we
I
would-
move that we nominate an individual from the Board of Selectmen to work with the Institution for Savings regarding saving the triptych, the Lester Stevens triptych.
Okay, motion's
Second.
been made and seconded. Further discussion? I'll jump in here. So I had a conversation today with, and I have been ongoing with Karen Berger, as far as trying to save we talked about this at the last meeting, the painting that's behind the tellers at the Rockport, the Institution for Savings. It's just an important piece to the town that really should remain here. And we're hoping that we can appeal to Kimberly Rock at the bank and to say that we'd really like it to remain here and kind of appeal to her to see what they could do to accommodate us in some way. And we want to be very obviously non-confrontational in our approach. This is just let's see what we can do to keep something in our community that belongs in this community. So that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, so do we have a suggestion as to where they could place the triptych?
Right there,
Right behind us? Okay,
right there.
okay.
Yep. I haven't done the measurements, but I have to imagine, I think Karen might have at some point. I think she knows the dimensions. She's actually the one that suggested that it go here, should that come to fruition. So we'll see how that goes. Ruthie? I'm sorry? There's been correspondence already. There has. The part of what we're doing here is also a letter that will be sent. There's been an email that has gone out by Karen, kind of setting it up. And now the next part will be the formal request from the town to ask for that. Now, one thing that would be great in here would be input from the board. If anybody wants to see anything or change it or tweak it in any way, by all means,
No,
like,
no, no.
chime in. And you don't have to do it right now.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get this out sometime in the next couple of weeks. And just see if we can, again, to appeal to them to keep a part of Rockport in Rockport. So this is, yes.
I'm one of the two cooperators in town on the board, so I will call
Oh,
Mike
good.
and Kim tomorrow. talking about it.
That's great. And if you, I don't know if you, I know Karen said she was going out of town. So if we can, yeah, do you want, so you'd get involved in this, Ruthie? That's great. That's great. And you know exactly what we're talking about, you know, the painting. That's great. So if we can coordinate with that, that'd be fantastic. So that's what we have. So now the motion is there. I will be happy to run point on this and work with Ruthie, George, and with Karen and perhaps Kimberly, of course, so we can maybe make this happen.
Great.
All right?
Good.
So we're good?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Thanks, Ruthie. We'll talk. That's great. That's done. Let's go with the request to waive the games of chance regulation and the alcohol rules for a chamber event on December 22nd, 2017.
I move that the board waive the games of chance regulations in the alcohol rules and regulations for Rockport Chamber of Commerce event to be held downtown on December 22nd, 2017.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Peter, you want to talk about that? Tell us a little bit about it. Sure.
Peter Weber, 83 High Street, Rockport, also Senior Vice President of the Rockport Chamber of Commerce and Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, Rockport Division. We have been planning as part of Christmas in Rockport a new event this year. We call it Rockport. It's Rockport Men's Shopping Night. And it's because a number of reasons the idea came along, but one of which is just the way the calendar falls. There's an extra weekend in December before Christmas. And we want to try something that's worked pretty well in Gloucester. And it'll be Friday night. And as part of the promotion, we've teamed up with the Ipswich Ale Brewery, and they have offered some giveaways in terms of the stores around town, offering some free samples of their beverage, and they'll be given around at the participating shops and galleries around town Friday evening. As part of the promotion and why we've asked for some, first of all, I asked for some guidance, and now I think, just to be very clear about it, a waiver of the policy that deals with games of chance. One of the things they would like to do at two locations that are licensed establishments, Brackett's is one of them, and the other is the Blue Lobster Grill, is have, and I think I can share this with people in town, a spinning wheel that looks something like this. And the way this works when they've done these promotions in other communities is anyone coming into that establishment has a chance to spin the wheel and get a prize. And those prizes expressly do not include any free alcoholic beverage, but instead are things like brewery tour passes, keychains, coasters, koozies, empty glasses, etc. So they would like to do this at those two locations that would serve as kind of headquarters for the evening. We've talked to a lot of the restaurants in town that are staying open extra hours, including Brackett's, for the evening to try to make it a successful event. Fish Shack will be open as well, although they're not serving as a headquarters or offering any games. My Place by the Sea will be open. Blue Lobster Grill, obviously, and Feather and Wedge. So it'll be a nice evening if we can do this. But again, they don't want to run afoul of any of the rules. I think a plain language reading of this might incorporate this under the regulation as a manual game of chance for reward or entertainment. It is entertainment. It's part of the entertainment. So that's why we appreciate the chance to come before you, and hopefully by waiving this for this one-time event, or a one-time waiver for this particular event, we can be clear that we're not running in any conflict with the laws and regulations in town. So that's where we're at.
How's, no, it was real quick. How was I'm sorry. How's everything been going overall? I know you guys have worked really hard on the whole Christmas in Rockport thing, and everything from Santa coming in before and leading up. How's everything been going? What's the feeling out
The
there?
overall feedback has been positive for the season. You always get some pluses and minuses as far as individual businesses, but overall, I think people are feeling it's a good season. It was especially good the day of Santa coming to town, and the tree lighting, because that coincided with some special events at Rockport Art Association. So that day was especially good, but the shopping night before that as well. That whole weekend was very good, and the second weekend a little bit less because of the snow on Saturday, but still I think there was a good turnout in town, and everybody always loves a pageant. So I think it's been a great season, and really appreciate your support throughout.
Nice to be able to see that grow year after year, and with the efforts that you folks put in, it's really appreciated.
Appreciate it. And a lot of, we're kind of a coordinating role. So many groups come together to make all the different aspects of Christmas in Rockport right through New Year's Eve happen. So that's a really great community in that respect. But you all know that.
Mr. Burke?
No, the Ipswich ale people, they'll be giving it, no one's selling it, they're giving it away, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only places it's going to be sold are at regular prices at the licensed restaurants
Okay.
that have it. It's a giveaway in small sample sizes at about 20 different stores, shops, and galleries around town that have signed up to be open extra hours that night.
Good.
So we hope it works.
And this waiver doesn't, all we need is the waiver and everything is fine.
Oh,
with
and
that.
we
There's
bill
no
it not
problem.
just for men, we bill it as for men and other last-minute shoppers. So
Yeah.
everybody's welcome.
Well, that's great. Great. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. Any other comments from the board?
No.
Everybody okay with this?
Yep.
Okay. You've heard the motion, and it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. Thank
Have
you.
fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's good. Okay, so we're going to move on to our Bradley Wharf and land leases.
I move that the board approve and sign Bradley Wharf land leases with Mark Davis, Michael Clay, Frank Davis Jr., and Robert Beloff, all to expire on June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. These are different leases than the last one. This is another batch of leases, correct? The reason I'm asking, I saw Mike Clay the last time around when we talked about this.
I can't answer that question.
I thought I did too. I was kind of thinking of it.
Oh, it was for another matter.
It was
that
for
he
something,
here.
it was,
Yeah.
okay. But this is different, and we're not changing the rates on this. Everything stays the same, correct?
Well, we've been asked to change the rates, but we can't do it with no notice. So I think the Finance Committee especially would like you to consider for next time talking
With
about
proper process, yes.
Yeah.
But not on a last-minute vote. That, I'll never go along with that, so we'll go. Toby, I know you had asked, you wanted to speak, go right ahead.
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. You've had bad advice from the Finance Committee, from Wally Hess and from Bill Wagner, doubtless well-meaning, wishing you to raise the rates for other storage facilities and probably for these as well. In the harbor plan, which the board adopted in October of 2003, we say that we wish to support the local fishing industry, and it's not just a matter of sentiment. the Army Corps is committed to repairing the harbors at Rockport Harbor and Pigeon Cove, not at Granite Pier or Old Harbor, and that's on the basis of a certain proportion of commercial use at those sites. So if the commercial use disappears, we're on our own to repair those facilities, which we can't very well afford to do. So supporting the fishermen, even if it means accepting less than what might be market rates for the leases, is in the self-interest of the town and not an act of charity.
Good point taken. I understand that, and I think,
Same thing in Long Beach?
what's that?
Would you feel the same way with Long Beach?
No.
Okay. So how does that differ?
That's a commercial proposition, and you failed to get a sufficient amount on the leases to pay for the seawall.
It was a little below market value, but we got some pretty good money considering what it was prior to.
So,
Anyways, we
that's it.
digress.
So, but we digress. So that's good. Point taken. Thank you, Toby. Okay, so everything being the same, nothing changed. We're good. You've heard the motion, and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. And we'll move on to the Granite Pier land leases.
I move that the board approve and sign Granite Pier land leases with Peter Haskell, Richard Medico, Chuck Parisi, Robert Beloff, Frank Davis Jr., Mark Davis, Steve Ragusa, and Kevin Beaton, all to expire on June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Toby, your comments were just blanket overall for all three of these, right? Okay, good. Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. And we will now come to one of our last items, the Pigeon Cove land leases.
I move that the board approve and sign Pigeon Cove land leases with Toby O'Connell, Anthony Santos, and Michael Clay, all to expire on June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion here? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
No,
Oh,
no, I didn't
I
say
just wanted
that.
to make
No,
sure.
no.
I don't want to record your
No.
vote correctly. That's 3 in the affirmative and none opposed. Very good. Motion carries. Thank you. So that's great. Now we will go to other business and announcements. Anybody have any? Denise, you have anything?
No.
You had quite a mouthful
I
tonight.
had quite a mouthful.
Yeah, you did a good job tonight. Thank you. That was a great. It's complicated to kind of grasp all that, but you really threw it out there in a good way.
Thank you,
It was
Don.
good.
Thanks.
So you did a great job with that. I mean
Thank
that
you. I
sincerely.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you
Thank
really
you.
did. I don't have anything else. Do we have anything we think like
Well,
that?
we were just talking about whether we had something else, so we'll put it to you, whether we have something else. We were working
against.
on the calendar, the master schedule today with Debbie, and we noticed that you have a scheduled meeting on January 2nd, and then the next Tuesday you have the workshop meeting with everybody, and then the one after that, you have a regular meeting again. We looked at the January 2nd meeting, and you didn't seem, at least nothing that we know of, there's not a lot. I think probably people are still hungover from New Year's Eve on January 2nd. So we put it to you whether you want to have that meeting, and if not, well, first of all, the first question is, do you want to have the January 2nd meeting?
Well, as far as the meeting itself, I mean, I defer to Sarah for that. I mean, I'll be in concert with everybody in the board, but I think Sarah as chair should chime in on that.
Okay.
Wasn't that the meeting when we were going to talk about the task forces?
Oh, I don't know.
Is this our last meeting of this year?
Yes.
So that would be the meeting where that would come up. And if January 2nd is not the date, I need to see a calendar in front of
Well,
me.
that's the next meeting, January 2nd.
No, I understand, but you're asking us to it's a light meeting to not do that. Is that,
Well,
am I
I
hearing
don't
that
know
correct?
about these. This stuff.
I think we'll talk to Sarah.
Talk to Sarah.
That's,
Yeah, okay.
right, that's what I would prefer. Let Sarah
Yeah.
set it, and I'll go along
Likewise.
with.
Well, I just want to finish the point, though, is that if Sarah chooses to not have that meeting, we need to ask you to either make an exception to your policy for the workshop meeting and put one agenda item on to vote on, which is to open the town meeting warrant. Or we put it to the next meeting, and people, if you open the warrant, don't open the warrant until the next meeting, people have much shorter time to get articles out.
Well, to open the warrant, we're just opening it, and that just opens it up for people to apply.
Yeah.
So it seems like a fairly simple thing to just
It's
open
simple.
the warrant.
It's simple, but if you don't have, it's scheduled for the 2nd. And if you have a meeting on the 2nd, fine. If you don't, I'd like
It
to.
shortens the window.
Right, but we could still make it happen if you'd waive your policy to never take a vote at a workshop meeting and open it then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, to just open something like that, because for the benefit of the public, to be able to get into the
Yep.
the process,
Yep.
I wouldn't have a problem with waiving it. I don't think that's an issue unless anybody else does. That Denise,
No.
you know, so I'm fine with it.
Okay.
But
So
you
we'll
would,
see what Sarah says, and if she wants to have the 2nd meeting, no problem whatsoever. It'll be on your agenda.
yeah, and I think that's fine. I'm fine with it. Yeah,
Okay,
there's no problem there, so that's fine. Did you have anything else? Anybody? No? Over there, we're good? Okay, anybody else up here? We're good? All right, we're a little ahead of schedule here, so we're good.
See everyone next year.
That's right. Have a Merry Christmas. and a-
holiday,
and a
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion been moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's go home.
Drop there.
I got it.
We have, very additional items.